Hi, this is outdoors writer David Figura, and I'm here today with two of my favorite, extremely talented outdoor wildlife photographers, Greg Craybas and Diana Whiting. Glad to have you guys here today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's start off. How did you guys get into wildlife photography? Diana?
Well, I was a bird watcher first, and then I always had an interest in photography, and it kind of morphed into the two, together. Started out with, smaller lenses, and then, you realize you have to have long lenses, a working distance, so that you are not disturbing things, and it went from there.
Greg, how about
Well,
you?
it started out, being a dentist, it actually worked out well for me as far as how I do my work. It was almost reverse engineering as far as seeing how light and colors and shapes all came together. And photography was the same thought process. So I love the outdoors, and photography melded both things together and actually became very, very easy to do as far as to be able to envision what an image is and to actually create it and make it happen.
For the beginner, for a novice, what kind of equipment do you need to get into wildlife photography? Greg?
That's a good question, because the best equipment you can have are your eyes. And when you first start out, you have to almost pre-vision what you want to do, whether it's in your backyard, whether it's in our parks and things like that. And then envisioning what captures your attention. What becomes a point after that is, what do you have to capture an image? And what becomes, relevant is, do you have an iPhone? Do you have an iPad? Those are very, very limited as far as what you can do. Mostly what we're all shooting with are digital SLRs with long lenses, because that allows you, one, to get closer optically than it would be physically to a subject, whereas an iPhone or an iPad, you have to really encroach upon a habitat to do that. So mostly digital SLRs. The key to this is expect that you're going to invest a lot of time and a lot of money into it, but the rewards are phenomenal as far as what you can get. So getting into it, digital SLRs, using lenses that look obscenely large, but it's what you can capture with it. And output is important too, as far as what do you want to do with your images. So your equipment starts first and then evolves from there.
Diana?
I have a friend that works for the Adirondack paper, and she is an older lady, like probably me now, but she has a small Panasonic Lumix with a telephoto lens ability on it. You can't change lenses on it. It's a consumer camera, I guess. But she's a naturalist first, so she really gets very good pictures. Maybe you can't blow them up the way you could with our equipment, but her knowledge of what she's doing, and what she does with that camera it's possible for people that want to start out with a smaller budget, but you really have to learn about what you're photographing.
Okay, and if you really want to step it up a level, what do you have to do then?
Then you have to invest a lot of money. I mean, when I bought my first 500 millimeter lens, which I still have, I thought, felt a little guilty, but I probably used that more than I use anything else. So, you have to have the right equipment to get the pictures, because you don't want to disturb things. You need a working distance. And if you want, behavior shots and things that are natural, you need to have that distance.
Okay, Greg?
That's a great comment, but when you're looking at your equipment, you almost have to know that equipment inside and out and what its capabilities are. Far too often, as photographers go, we're always upgrading equipment. We want more glass, we want more length that's there. And most of the time, you can mitigate that by just knowing what your lens is capable of, where you have to be, where your position is, where the light is coming from, and you can optimize, even with entry-level equipment, some beautiful imagery. So it's not necessarily the longest lens, it's not necessarily the most expensive equipment you can buy. It's you knowing exactly what you can do and then paying attention to the environment around you, but also knowing what your subject is. So that equipment becomes something you really have to be a close partner with that allows you to really capture some unique images.
Okay, I want to go cheap. Can I get decent wildlife photography pictures with a smartphone, an iPhone?
No,
What's your thoughts on that?
no, I think that the people I see with iPhones really encroach into spaces and, you know, flush things, and I don't even like my iPhone to take pictures of people, but that's me. My phone is not the newest phone, but I don't think there's enough things on there to control what I like to control when I take a picture. But
Okay. Greg, you can follow up on what Diana said about this whole thing about encroaching on the animal's space, you know, with an iPhone.
Etch-a-Sketch is better. You'd be shocked. I think in all light of that, you know, the best phone you have is the one that's on you. And unfortunately, with most wildlife experiences that people get into, they are, and it happens with me too. I don't have my camera with me, but I have my iPhone with me. So in cases where you're seeing a unique event that doesn't allow you to pre-stage something to actually get into an environment, your iPhone's perfectly fine. But, you know, you have a barrier, you have now a car you could shoot from, you can actually do things without getting out of your car, and you're documenting something. So an iPhone is definitely a tool. It's not the tool that we would primarily use to take images that you want to do something with. Most of the time, people are taking iPhone images. Where do they go? Facebook, they go on social media, and that's where they live. Whereas I know with Diana's beautiful work and the stuff that I do, you want to make sure that I want to put it on a wall. I want to give it to people. I want it to have some presence and longevity. And I think that's where wildlife photography and imagery has its place, but iPhone imagery and whatever's on you definitely does based on the moment you're in.
Talk about the importance, let's start, of doing homework on a subject you wish to photograph, and briefly give an example of where it paid off. Diana?
well, when I wanted to photograph loons, I read every single book that I could find. And then I also drove up and back to the Adirondacks in the evening to hear one of the, you know, best people that they have up there that's an expert on loons, to hear him speak. And it was worth every bit of that drive because I learned, you know, what to do, what not to do, what to look out for. You know, sometimes things like that are not in a book because it's not geared towards a photographer and our needs or what we should be looking out for. But now when I go out and I photograph loons, I can be a lot more successful and also know when I need to leave, if I'm causing a problem, you know, especially when they have young chicks, or whether that loon is people friendly and, you know my working distance is not bothering them. And one of the first things I did was drive up there and happened to be on the first day of a loon's life, a baby, and got wonderful photographs because the loon was both friendly, undisturbed, and, you know, I had this quality time and I got to see wonderful things. But it was a lot of homework. Yeah.
Okay, Greg?
Time, lots of time.
Yes.
Especially the eagles on Onondaga Lake, and I've been photographing them for over 9 years. And every time that I go out, it's a new education. You're learning something different each time. The subject is essentially the same, but every winter is different. Every behavior pattern that's different. So it becomes a continual process of education that you just build from as a skill set. And each time you're doing, you know, the process of preparing, going out, taking pictures, you know what you want to get as far as an image goes ahead of time. You're looking at the light, you're looking at wind, the environment, and all those things that are important, and knowing your subject and their behavior and how they're going to become a unique opportunity to take an image. I think that is that wealth of knowledge you get just by taking time to do it. But it's time well spent. There's plenty of times you go out there and you get snake bit. You don't have anything.
That's for sure.
There's time you go out and you hit the lottery and you hit 4 or 5 images that you're like, wow, out of like maybe 1,000 images, you got 4 or 5 keepers. That's a great day. People think that, you know, with this big equipment and all this stuff we have, every time you take a picture, it's a winner. And that is not the case. It can take weeks to get the image that you want.
Years.
That's what you want to get.
Talk briefly about time, effort involved in getting, quote, that killer photo that you're proud of. Diana, is it the loon or the anything else you can think of?
Well, you know, I have a lot of photographs that I like, and some of them are serendipity, and some of them are, you know, some planning involved. But I think it is all the same. You have to invest a lot of time, like Greg said, and you got to be willing to go out and be in the field, even if it's not going to be, you know, a winter day. It's just
Right.
being prepared and knowing your subject and being willing to spend the time. And, you know, every day I'm out, I'm happy to be outside. So I try not to come home and, you know, think it was a negative experience. And it's
Okay.
always a learning experience. So, you know.
Okay. Greg?
You know, with everything we've done for the last 6 months, as far as COVID fever, cabin fever, you know, going outdoors and the opportunity to take pictures, it just is so exciting to be able to look forward to doing something that we've been able to do. Other photographers are probably our greatest inspiration as far as, you know, knowing what people are taking pictures of locally, because we have a great resource. We got Onondaga Lake that's transformed. You have Montezuma, you have the Adirondacks, you have all the tributaries and lakes around here, and obviously bird migration. So every opportunity to take pictures, boy, there's not enough time in the day that I have or would like to have to actually do it. But
Yeah, wouldn't you like to be more than one person sometimes?
yeah, I need to be.
Have your assistant do the dental work while
Yeah,
you're
right.
doing the pictures.
Sometimes so many things are going on. You wish you could just, you know, like the time that I watch Fox is the same time that warblers come through, and you can't be two people. So you have to make your, you know, choice.
Okay. Are there ethical practices when it comes to wildlife photography? And can you talk about something that's really frowned upon by wildlife photographers?
Gee, that's always been a very, very conscious effort on everybody's part to, one, do no harm, and to advocate for the environment. You know, when you're looking at an animal, you're looking at a situation, are you there to document, or are you there to capture an image, or are you there obviously for your own interests? I think if there's a buffer that you can maintain, whether it's private land, whether it's, you know, the safety of that animal or your safety, because it's amazing how many times people get out to take images and they're in harm's way.
Right.
And that is very troubling to other people that are trying to, like, take pictures, and then, you know, somebody's doing something wrong, which is going to draw negative energy to what you're trying to do, and then it ruins it for everybody. So everybody really needs to be mindful of, you know, your safety, the animals, you know, buffer that you need to maintain. And then also, you know, is the image really worth sacrificing any of those variables? You know, if the light's terrible, you know, you don't have the right equipment, then maybe back off and try to find another opportunity at another time.
Okay. Diana?
I would say feeding animals to get pictures. When you habituate them to people, it never ends well for them down the way. And I saw on social media someone was, you know, sitting in the middle of a fox den and thought that was a good idea. But I think about those animals later when they're so used to people, and people are so afraid of animals that, you know, don't show any fear, that I don't think that is a good idea. So I think feeding animals to get a picture, or removing vegetation to a den or a nest site, you know, that puts an animal in danger, and they're young. And when animals have young, it's one of the times that photographers really get the most opportunities. But I think that really brings us a responsibility to make sure that parents are coming and going and feeding young, and that you are not stressing things out. I mean, my best experiences are when I see a parent coming, bringing in food, accepting me, not paying any attention to me. And I'm usually a pretty good working distance. There's sometimes that I'm not, but the animal is not stressed, or I would leave. I've left when it's either dangerous, like a road situation like Greg is talking about, or if I think that I'm doing something, you know, that is not, like, especially preventing young from being fed, because parents don't like to show themselves, particularly, you know, my experience are with Fox. So if you do not see the parents coming back and forth to feed them, and you stay for a long time, you are preventing, you know, all those young from getting fed. So things like that are important to me. It's maybe the first time in my life that I chose do what you love, and not worry about having a motive for it, or I mean, I think I've grown into, you know, wanting to advocate for the environment and for wildlife and birds. And when you can make people appreciate something like that, that makes them appreciate something. You know, you have to come in contact with something to appreciate it. So if you can open people's eyes, that's very rewarding. But for my personal journey, it was kind of like, just do what you love and don't worry about it. I looked at it like my college education that I never got. Every time I bought an expensive piece of equipment, I thought, well, you know, you're going to use it, and, you know, you need it for what you want to do. And I have never looked back.
Cool. Well, both of you, thank you very much. You're two talented people, and continue shooting away. I really enjoy your images. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dave.